Western Cape has been able to reopen a number of roads after massive storms battered the province. These include the N1 at Doorns. Many homes were flooded, trees uprooted and roads washed away. Officials say they've managed to reopen many roads. For more, let's speak to Jandre Bakker, the head of the communications at the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure. Jandre, thank you very much for your time. Just first of all, in terms, let's start with the highway that partly washed away. I believe it was the N2 when we heard about it on Sunday. What's going to happen there?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to join you. It's quite extensive damage on the N2 at Port River. It's not just partially washed away, it's an entire section that is washed away. So a lot of work will have to be done then. Obviously, some of the work cannot commence until the water has completely subsided. So it's a waiting game at this stage so that the water reaches a level where we can ascertain, along with obviously the South African National Roads Agency, whose section of road that is. But obviously we will support and then we will be able to ascertain how long that repair will be. Obviously there will have to be some interim measures put in place initially until a more permanent solution can be put in place, because we need to get traffic flowing on that route. At this stage we are still managing traffic volumes through the alternative route, which is via the R60 at Swellendam all the way to the N1. But that's not necessarily a long-term solution, especially for people who want to commute between Caledon and Grabouw, where you have that break between the two towns.
And that was going to be my other question. Obviously, with all the roads like your N1 and even N2, you're going to need buy-in from SANRAL and the national government, because at the end of the day, that's a national road.
Absolutely, but when it comes to crises, that's one thing us South Africans can do, and that is stand together and make sure that there's no red tape standing in between each other, and accept help and offer help. So that's how we got the N1 opened at the Doorns in such a quick time. The N2, as I say, it's matters beyond our control, the reason for that one being closed. If we look at provincial roads, once again, as the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day, but then again, we weren't the foreman. So a lot of good work has been done with regards to provincial roads that are under our jurisdiction, and roads that we can do some work on. There are a number of critical roads at this stage that we have identified. For example, at this stage, McGregor is completely cut off from the rest of the province. So that is a big concern to us, as to re-establish access to McGregor. Luckily the bridge did not collapse, so the bridge structure is fine, but the approach to the bridge is completely washed away. We are currently sending a team out to do those inspections to see how quickly we can do the filling there to it. Once again, like we did at Citrusdal with the last floods, get a temporary solution in place to get into McGregor. Our other alternative that we're working on is at Verliersdorp, to get to from Grabouw to Verliersdorp and the N2. That is a key one for especially export products, agricultural products, and especially for workers that need to commute between those towns, because that's important for the economy. And there we have two roads. So not only we're working on one solution, if one solution is not viable in the short turnaround time, then we're working on a second solution for that as well. We are experiencing high traffic volumes on the R43. That's the route that connects Betty's Bay, Royals, etc. with Kleinmond back to the N2. And we're expecting more traffic. It's the Whale Festival this weekend. So what we're doing there is, even though it's only one lane that's open to traffic at the moment, we're building a slight deviation, or not building, making a slight deviation into the emergency lane so that we can re-establish two-way traffic to help with that. And Clarence Drive, we have a team on site, only 1,000 cubic meters of dirt, rubble, earth that we still need to move, and then we can start thinking of reopening Clarence Drive as well. So a lot of good work by the teams.
Yeah, and I can imagine, I mean, I know that Cape Town, for instance, the same as the Joburg Metro, has quite a lot of traffic. And I was just wondering how this is going to look during rush hour. But Jandre, speak to me about the fact that these types of incidents have officials spending a lot of time together suddenly in meetings, because now you have to redirect, right, your budgets. You know, money that was meant for something else now has to be redirected to fixing things urgently.
Luckily, that's not my baby. I just make sure that everything gets done. So from our side, what we are excited about is where we have teams, internal in-house teams that we can redirect to do a lot of the work. If we look at the McGregor case specifically, we are aiming to do that with our in-house teams, with our in-house equipment, which is exciting because that means that, number one, you're skilling, you're building capacity, and you can have a quicker response than if you had to go through tender processes, etc. So at this stage, yes, you have to redirect, you have to reprioritize, and our main focus now is to get people connected, to get communities connected again, so that if there's emergency, we can get them to emergency help, to make sure that our humanitarian relief can get into an area.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, one can't put a price on that. So it's important that we get those routes open at all costs.
Do you, for instance, have any timelines? I mean, earlier this week, we heard from the Western Cape government that even some children can't get to school because their transports can't get on the roads, or even worse, nurses and hospital staff or clinic staff can't get to the hospitals or facilities they work for because roads have been washed away. Do you have timelines at all?
That's the million-dollar question, a very tough one to answer, because specifically for the reason you can't dictate when the water will subside. We had quite a bit of heavy winter rain, which means the water isn't seeping in and isn't going into the ground as quickly as one would hope. So you have a lot of stagnant water that keeps us from getting into areas to ascertain damage. For example, if we look at Struisbaai that was cut off from Bredasdorp, we are seeing the water slowly reaching a level where you can start seeing what the damage to the road is. And at this stage, we remain cautiously optimistic to reopen that in a short period of time, even though there will still be sections where the road is overtopped. Other areas, if we look at Arniston to Bredasdorp, the bridge structure seems to be in place, but there's an entire section of one lane of road that's completely washed away. So there you'll see a longer timeline for the fix, but as soon as the water's dissipated, you can then see how quickly we can get at least one lane open with a stop and go. Like we did with Masego. The estimation was it would be closed for 2 days. It was open yesterday afternoon because we saw what we could do to get it open. The same with the R44 at the Palmit River Bridge. We had a long-term view and said this is going to take some time. Yesterday, mid-morning, we were testing it. By lunchtime yesterday, we could have access, even though it's one lane of traffic and only light motor vehicles, at least we can get people in and out. Absolutely. Yeah. So that remains our focus, and especially for emergency, kids needing to go to school, people needing to get to work, humanitarian relief, it's our main focus to at least get some form of access going.
Jandre, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA. Jandre Bakker, the Head of Communications at the Western Cape Department of Infrastructure. Quite funny what Mother Nature can do. You have to respect her. I remember a time when Cape Town or the Western Cape was under a dry spell and they were complaining about not enough rain. People were losing cattle at their farms, etc. And now that Mother Nature has given them rain, she has damaged some parts of that province. Let's take you to a short ad break.